So we'll discuss some Inyani Diyoma. I think it's everyone's birthday today, so I thought it'd be appropriate to talk about birthdays. And even though it's only my English birthday, we'll have to celebrate another day for my Hebrew birthday, which raises the question. Number one is, which birthdays do you celebrate? Both? Neither? And what about the more fundamental question, celebrating birthdays? Is that like Chukas Hagayim? Is that one of the things we learn from being among the Gentiles? Or is that a Jewish basis to have a birthday party? Or whatever you're supposed to do? So we'll have a couple of different approaches to how do we view celebrating birthdays. So the first approach is by the Minchas Eliezer, the Mumkatcher. He was not too happy about celebrating birthdays. There is no room for any type of celebration. It must be Chukas Hagayim, because it's not a Jewish thing. Why isn't it a Jewish thing? Because he quotes a famous Gemara. It has many disputes between Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, and Hillel. And one of the disputes in the Gemara is it better to be born or not? Is it better that you were born, or is it better that you weren't born? Machlokes, Hillel and Shammai, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, and the Gemara seems to conclude better not to be born. Whatever that means exactly, but the Gemara concludes better not to be born. So the Minchas always says, if it's better not to be born, how could celebrating birthdays be a good thing? You shouldn't even be here. So he's clearly against the celebration, of birthdays. So that's the Minchas Eliezer. The middle approach is the Arugos Habosem, another one of the greater Achronim. He points out as follows, that of course there is something to birthdays, but it isn't necessarily a time of celebration. Maybe it should be like a Yom Hadin, like Rosh Hashanah, because what is Rosh Hashanah? It's the anniversary of the birth of Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, and every year God, reviews his decision. Was it the right choice or not to create man? So the Arugas Abbasam says is, of course, birthdays are a special day, but it's not a time of simcha, not a time of open simcha. It's a time of trepidation, fear, yiras Hashem. You're one day closer to Yom HaMisa. You're one day closer to Judgment Day, as the card goes. Whether it's 40, 50, 60, whatever it is, it says, I'm not there yet, but you can start seeing the end from there. That's how birthdays have to be. It's basically like the rabbis say, you have to do tshuva today, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So every day you're a day older, but a birthday, I guess, is a time of demarcation. So minimally once a year, of course, all the time you should be, but at least once a year, you should be thinking of Yom Adin, thinking you're not getting younger, as they say, and therefore you're one day, one moment closer. In fact, like the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, the Gemara talks about the different days you say Hallel. So the Gemara goes to the 18 days, 21 days, and it has different criteria for when you say Hallel, when you don't. When we get into Purim, Yom Ha'atzmaut, we could get more into Hallel. But the general, the general criteria are that it has to be a Moed. Rosh Hashanah is a Moed. It has to be a day where there's an Isser Malacha, Iktish Bastiyas Malacha. And it's a day that has its own carbon. So the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur seems to fit the bill that it should be a day that we say Hallel. And yet, as you all remember from Oheb Tzedek, that we don't say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So why not? So the Gemara says, you're right. It is a day in theory that one should say Hallel. However, it's inappropriate because it's a time of Yom HaMisa. People are being judged. The Sifrei Chaim, the Sifrei Mason, the books of the living and the books of the dead are opened up, and you're just oblivious to it. You're just singing a Hallel. So as the Rambam writes, it's not a day of Simcha Yisera. In other words, it's a day of Simcha, but not openly. And therefore, like Rosh Hashanah, on one hand, we blow the shofar, and we do different things. On the other hand, we do have a Sudas mitzvah. We do eat, so there has to be a mixture. So on one hand, there is something special to a birthday that Rugas Abasim writes, but not just one of these, reckless birthday parties, but it has to be one that, more like a Rosh Hashanah day. It's your own personal Rosh Hashanah. And there is an element of simcha, but it has to be toned down. Serious doesn't mean sad, but it has to be more of a serious day. So we have the Mumkach who says, better not to be born, meaning he's not saying it, but he's quoting the Gemara, and therefore obviously birthdays have no room in Judaism. The Ruch says, of course it has room, but it's not the celebrations you see around when most people celebrate their birthdays. It should be a Rosh Hashanah celebration, not let's say a Purim celebration or Simchas Torah celebration. However, the third approach, the most positive, is Reb Tzadok HaKohen. Reb Tzadok, who was a Litvak turned Chassid, he was a Litvak and then he turned Chassid, and he knows like Kol Torah Kulo. His Sfam are very hard to read. It's figuring out what the words mean. You have to and he speaks a lot of like Kabbalah, a lot of deep things. But over here he points out, he says, birthdays are a good day. It's a mazel tov. It's a good time. In other words, whether you should, if you're going to start Daf Yomi, that's the day. As you're starting to coming to a shir, you're doing those are the times that or some say if you're going to start the lottery, maybe that's the day to pick it. But there is something to birthdays. Where do we know it? From the Gemara. From the Gemara Megillah. The Chazal tell us in Purim Shloshim Yom. We celebrated Tu B'Shvat, the birthday for trees, the new year for trees. That means we're within 30 days now of Purim. So the Gemara tells us Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag. You start learning about the laws of the holiday. So the Gemara tells us about why is it called Purim, because Pur, from the lottery, that Haman was making a whole joke out of it. Let's kill the Jews. Let's just make a lottery. Let's pick this day, Adar. Pick different days. And everything was, so he said, what, I know, I'll pick the day, that Moshe Rabbeinu died, Zayin Adar. And then, it'll be, let's pick the day, it'll be great. The Moshe died, we'll kill the Jewish people. And we know the end game, we had a reversal. But Nafachu, the reversal came on Haman. So what happened? Why didn't it work out? Because we all know not only did Moshe Rabbeinu die on Zayin Adar, he was also born on Zayin Adar. Like the comic strip about this person going to a sorcerer, but since sorcerers are prohibited, so we'll change it to a makubal. He went to a makubal and he wanted to find out what day of the week he's going to die, or he found out what day. He found out he was going to die on a Monday, so he went to the makubal. I want you to get rid of, terminate all Mondays, and I'll live forever. So the makubal said, "You sure?" Yeah. So he got rid of Mondays and he disappeared. He forgot to find out he was also born on a Monday. So it's a two-way street. So that's what Rashi writes. Kedai Yom Ha-Leida Shemachaper Yom Ha-Misa. In other words, greater is the day of birth than the day of death. And therefore, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on that day, that makes it a Mazel Tov. In fact, that's the whole discussion by yort sites. What do you do on a yort site? So the straight psak of the Shulchan Aruch is you should fast on a yort site. It's a Mazel Ra, it's a sad time, but in the Hasidic Mahalach, and that's crept into many non-Hasidic circles, people have a tikkun, they make a breakfast, and they say, well, it's a happy time. Let's make brachas. We want to, the schus of the brachas we have will be good for the nifter. So of course one could fast and still make a breakfast if you have breakfast for everyone else. But either way, so those are the two schools of thought, whether it's fast or feast. And of course it's a little of both, because on one hand it's bittersweet, as they say. On one hand, you lost a loved one, so it's not a happy time on this day. On the other hand, there's so many good things you learned from that person and you're incorporating in your whole life, so it's a simcha. So fast or feast. So that's what's saying with the birthday, that he says Kedai Yom HaLeida Shemachapa Yom HaMisa. So the way of a birthday, it's a time of simcha and celebration. It's your own personal yontiv. It's a time to celebrate with chips and licorice and other things. And in fact, so we established, according to Rav Sadek, it's a happy time. You could celebrate even according to the Rugas Habasim. It's important to observe your birthday, but keep the celebration down. But when is your birthday? Well, of course, your birthday is when you're born. Right? Figure it out. So it's not so simple. Because the Ben Ish Chai and others point out about people celebrating birthdays. I think he himself did celebrate birthdays on his birthday, but he writes a minhag, and he writes minhag yafeh. It's a beautiful minhag. When do you celebrate? At least for a male, I'm not sure what he says for women, but he says on the Yom HaMilah, because the Yom HaMilah is like the Gemar Haleda, like you name the child, you get rid of the oral. So obviously you're born day one. So he quotes a nice minhag. He said he himself didn't observe that minhag, but he says there are people who observe the nice minhag of Yom HaMilah. And the Chasam Sofer says, where does that come from? It goes back to Avram Avinu, because when the Torah says B'yom Higamel es Yitzchak, so it says, so when it be Yom Higamel, Hey Gimel is one that's 8. So some say he was celebrating his Milah, and others point out that no, it was like the other Chazal he quotes Rashi is it was 24 months that she was nursing, and it was after the 20 months period, and now they had to give him food and stuff. So either way, so Rav Chasam Sofer points out, we see it, perhaps the source of the old minhag that even that the Yom HaMilah, is the Gemar Haleda. So to summarize, we have 3 different schools of thoughts on how we view birthdays. Number 1 is no celebration at all. There's no room for any celebration. We shouldn't be here, so we shouldn't be bored. Clearly, it's not a good time to celebrate. That doesn't seem to be, at least maybe different, maybe in different places. Maybe in Mumkatz, that was no one celebrated birthdays. I don't know if they followed the Mumkatz or Rav. The approach of the Rugas Habasim, of course, it's important to know when your birthday is, but it's like it's a Yom Hadin, it's Rosh Hashanah. It is a time of Simcha. Like Rosh Hashanah, you have a Sudas mitzvah, but do a Cheshbon HaNefesh. Think about one day closer, how could I become better in the remaining years, days, a person has left. And thirdly, the most positive approach, which seems to be, minhag North America, is people to look at birthdays as a happy time. It's a time of celebration. It's a personal yontif. And that's what Rav Sadek points out, that's based on the Gemara Megillah, that greater is Yom HaLeda, it overpowers the Yom HaMisa. And that's the whole discussion with the Yortzeit, whether it's feast or fast, because on one hand, it's a Mazel Ra, on the other hand, you've got so much. And then when you celebrate the birthdays, either 2 minhagim, I don't think my kids would be happy waiting 8 more days for their birth to get their gifts. I don't think that would work too well. But either you go with the minhag of waiting till Yom HaMilah, or most people have the minhag of if they are going to celebrate a birthday, they're going to celebrate it on the day they're born. But as to quote the Ben Ish Chai, Yafa minhag zeh, and it goes back to age perhaps to the time of Avram Avinu. So those are the different shitas. So Yesh al mi litzmoch, you have yourself covered. If you don't want any celebration, if you want to make a more serious birthday, or you want to have a more festive one, you just have to know you want to call it the Minchas Alaz's birthday party, the Arugas Habasim's birthday party, or the Ritzadak HaKohen's birthday party. The choice is yours.